Good thing about 3 million viewers.
Oh, thank you.
Anyhow.
Really?
I definitely have to get more stylish. Somebody sent me like a case of these, but I have to
Social
get something
media,
stylish.
video.
Burberry's mask.
Which one? Camarina's.
You look great.
Yeah.
I've never seen you
Did you
look
see the
up.
leopard chair in that room? It's amazing. Next to all these wonderful, like, wine bottles.
Okay.
Alrighty.
We name it. We haven't done
Oh, the address.
it. I think we use it.
Well, you actually, if you.
We're getting started in just a minute here.
The viewer doesn't really know that, but.
Right, everyone knows
You
that.
could say
Say it,
that.
I would say
Kim had to give up Chardonnay during COVID. It was really
That was really
a hellish experience.
it. Oh, jeez.
That's horrible.
It was really the worst part of it.
Why did you mean rosé?
I'm kidding.
No,
Rosé.
Chardonnay and rosé. I was just
Rosé.
thinking about her doing colors.
All right.
Yeah, most would kill the germ. Often it's really embarrassing. There's only been like 1 or 2 days that I haven't drank this entire.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, we have 30 people on, ready to go.
Oh, can you
Take
guys
it
tell
away.
us too, like his own? I think it's really nice to talk to the audience.
Yes. Okay.
All right, we're
Take
good
it
to
away.
go.
Hi, welcome to 79 Aspeton Road in Bedford. This beautiful estate, this beautiful retreat is only an hour outside of Manhattan, and I am joined here today with Kevin Snedden, who is representing the Greenwich market and the New York City market, and we are going to be talking today about the climate of real estate and what some people are calling a real estate rebound. But we want to answer questions and talk about what we are seeing in the overall market and how that differs depending on price range, depending on the product, depending on where you're looking. We are also joined by our chief evangelist here at Compass, Leonard Steinberg. Leonard, thank you for being here today. And we are also joined by Cindy Schultz. Cindy is very active in the Hamptons and in Manhattan, really the New York region. So Cindy will be bringing her perspective on the market. And we are also joined by Maria Minucci. And Maria is also a Manhattan agent. And as everyone speaks, they'll talk more about their markets and what they're seeing. But thank you to our viewers for joining us here today. And again, we are from Compass, and we're here to answer your questions and talk about the new real estate market.
Well, the good thing is the new real estate market is new always, right? That's the only certainty in our world of real estate, that there's change. There's always change.
That's so true.
What we love about it.
Yeah. So personally, from my experience, what I am seeing right now is people catching on to, I think, what a lot of us have experienced in the past, and that is having this lifestyle in the city as well as in the country, but the country isn't 5 hours away or a 7-hour flight away. It's a 1-hour drive away. And to have both seems to be kind of a dream lifestyle.
So true. Cindy was sharing earlier about some of her clients. And tell us a little bit, Cindy, about what your experience and what their desires are.
Yeah, it's been interesting. My clients who would normally spend 6 figures a year easily on traveling, COVID had really like woke them up, and they said, okay, I think I'm going to invest now in a second home because I want security. I want it to be an extension of my identity. I want to be able to be with my friends at all times. And you know, people sometimes are waiting to have kids or get married, making decisions, and now we're seeing everyone independently make decisions to buy a second home.
Or third or fourth.
Or third or fourth.
Yes.
I've actually been, meeting up with a client of mine from the city who is currently renting out here, and they own, I think, 3 or 4 homes. And they said, you know what? We cannot believe what we've discovered here. It is so beautiful, and I cannot believe we're 1 hour from Manhattan. And that to us is something we never even contemplated, how we could go for one night up to our house in Bedford or Katona or Pound Ridge and have this complete escape moment without flying or driving for 3 or 4 hours or helicopters or trains or anything that really makes us miserable a lot of the time.
And the value in that purchase, the price point is so much more attractive here than other regions that are so well known for being the second home or the third home market. So these are value purchases, they are extraordinary opportunities. And why I'm here is because many of my clients, they're not leaving the city, but they want to scale down their presence in Manhattan and scale up their presence in one of these neighboring homes. So I'm doing quite a bit of work in Westchester. It's such a beautiful place to experience this home today. I'm so delighted to be here. And also Connecticut, because they are value purchases related to other aspects of the market. When you read the Hamptons, what would this home cost in the Hamptons?
Probably multiples of this in the Hamptons, and to have, water in your backyard and everything, so the
Tennis court, the pool, absolutely. You're on the Bedford riding lane here. So for our equestrian lovers, that's also very attractive. I just want to, we are making this conversation, really this is the fireside chat without the fire. So this is really, we want it to be a conversation. We want the viewers also to ask questions. So please feel free to do that, but also I want to do a sound check. I just want to make sure that our viewers can hear us. So some of our guests over in the audience over there, if someone could check Facebook, the team page, Facebook Live, just to see if our sound is carrying and you can actually hear us. It would be terrible to do the whole conversation and no one
Well, it's
hear us.
difficult in this environment to do lip reading.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to do lip reading, exactly.
We need a
And
sign that.
some of us, depending on our past experiences, feel more comfortable with or without the mask. And of course, we are encouraging masks for everyone. So we want to obviously keep that in mind. But it is hard. Have you seen the clear mask? They are clear so you can actually read lips. Has anyone seen
I've
it
seen
yet?
I want to
It's
get a
not the
mask.
string, but it's the mask.
Yeah.
I want to get a mask with fake lips so that I can just.
Oh, right.
So we just had someone say that they could hear better, so just make sure you're loud and we should be
Project.
good.
Project.
Excellent.
But I think Kim is in a very fortunate position in that she's had COVID-19
Yeah.
and she's allowed to take her mask off.
Okay, Leonard's telling all of my secrets and we're only getting started.
But it's amazing that you've also survived it and you're healthy and you're drinking coffee again, which is a good thing.
That's right, Neil, thank you.
You know what I also think is amazing about the properties that you do find in this area is if you were to look at the cost of rebuilding a house like this here, it would probably be double of what this house is for sale for. It's an astounding value proposition from that perspective alone.
Absolutely, Leonard, and we were fortunate enough to have the builder of this home on site for one of our open houses, and it was fascinating hearing him tell the stories of how the home was constructed, how it took 3 years from design to actually being completed, and how elements of the home were flown in from around the world and brought in. These beams that you see here, and Kevin can jump in and help me, from a St. Lawrence shipping dock in Canada, and they are actually put together on site. So Leonard, to your point, so much value. The builder actually said that he could not rebuild this home today for what the offering price is.
Yeah, and I think they worked with the builder and it was an opportunity, and the builder got wind of this opportunity with dismantling this dock up on the St. Lawrence River. And the homeowners here challenged the builder, well, let's take a truckload of those down to Bedford and we'll challenge the architect to design a home around these beams, which they did. They literally had a truckload down at the end of the driveway, and they brought them up, and the architect figured out how to put them all together like this, create the structure. So it's really like something that you'll rarely find.
Well, I think, a lot of these homes can be built anywhere, but I think setting is as meaningful, and this setting is just unreal. It's this private little enclave surrounded by properties with dozens of acres of open land and horse riding trails. But what I find most fascinating is you exit the highway. It's an hour from Manhattan, and all of a sudden you drive a little bit and you're on a dirt road. That is unreal. It's unreal. 1 hour from Manhattan, you're driving on a dirt road, and you arrive at this full country experience without all the hassle of excessive traffic and commuting. And I do think that is what allows this next generation of lifestyle that we're experiencing right now where people have the capacity to work in the city, work in the country, city, country, and have the best of all worlds. I mean, didn't Mae West say beautifully, too much of a good thing is divine.
Oh, but we always bring it to you. I love it. But I do think not only are we seeing a real estate shift, but what Leonard has really talked about, it's also a mind shift. It's a lifestyle shift. Wouldn't you say? So I think people have taken this time to contemplate and to talk about what their family is looking for, what their friends are looking for, how they want to live their lives. And so many people, you know, no one's given up on Manhattan, right?
Never.
People never. People want their home there in Manhattan, but I think they do, as to Cindy, or to Cindy's point earlier, they may not want to travel. They may not want to, you know, get on a plane as often or just yet. So this gives them escape, a retreat, a sanctuary. As Leonard said, it's easily, you can get to it so easily.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting too. I think people are looking at homes like this. There's a difference between a house and a retreat. And then even if you do want to travel, you want to go to the south of France next year, you can rent out a beautiful home like this for a pretty penny. And I think now the mindset has shifted to, I'm buying something, this is also truly an investment. And I can tap into it at any time if I have a really special product. So
I think what's so amazing too is the proximity to Manhattan. What's so great about this is it's an hour, so Manhattan is very accessible. But when you're here, only an hour away, you could be in Montana, you could be in Aspen, Colorado. It really has that feel. So you have that escapism. But again, Manhattan, 1 hour.
Well, it's so funny. I had some guests over the other day at my house, which is 5 minutes away. And I was absolutely blown away when one of the guests who I've traveled with a lot in Europe said, you know, Leonard, this is like Tuscany without the jet lag. I say, you are so right. What is amazing, I think, in this moment, we've discovered the beauty that exists in our backyard.
Oh, I
It's
love that.
extraordinary beauty, and I think we kind of always assumed we had to travel so far to achieve that.
That is such a great point. So Kevin, will you share with us and the viewers like, what you're seeing in Greenwich? I mean, everyone is talking about the explosion in Greenwich. They were able to show property. They were able to meet their clients before New York could do that. So basically they were in phase one very soon.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, our team operates in Manhattan and Greenwich, and we got shut down. Greenwich, you know, was allowed to function. And what's really interesting in terms of discovery, you know, so Greenwich is roughly an hour from Manhattan as well. I would say 90% of the buyers now who are buying in Greenwich coming from Manhattan have never set foot in the state of Connecticut, right? And they're all saying to us, Greenwich is so beautiful. I never knew, you know, and it's just so interesting. So everyone's discovering these beautiful towns all through Westchester, all through Fairfield County, again, all within an hour of New York, which makes them so special. Because nobody, you know, New York is great for what it's great for, and these towns are great, but one without the other doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? So to me, Nirvana is a home in the city and a home in the country.
Why not have both? And I think a lot of people have always assumed that having a second or a third home is for billionaires.
Right.
What they're discovering now is that it actually is available at multiple price points.
Right.
And you don't need to spend $30 million or $40 million to have a very impressive home within a few hours of your front door. I think the fact that it's an hour is really the big one. And I think, as importantly, there is public transportation. So it's not like you have to be in a car, and within a few months, if Tesla is right, we'll be sitting in the back of the cars not even doing anything, and having self-drivers back and forth, which is it's going to open up a whole new way of thinking about how we live.
Absolutely. And Cindy, I think this is a great time, I think, for Cindy to share what we were speaking about before we were having this conversation about investing.
Yeah.
So some of your younger clientele, they are looking to diversify their portfolios, right?
Yeah,
Could you share that?
absolutely. And before it was very hard to make the argument to get out of the equities market. We were seeing this huge like bull market. And I think people, you know, the equities market is still doing well, but people are fearful that it might drop off. And then there was an explosion in VC money. Everybody was putting money into VCs, and what we saw is some of these smaller companies cannot fare during something like this. So a lot of my clients want to put money into real assets. And, everyone now is also thinking about real estate as an emotional commodity, and I mean that in a very good way. Mental health. Where can you be if, you just need to escape from the city, whether there's a pandemic or not? You need to feel like you have somewhere to go. And what COVID has taught me is that we all need to slow down and value our mental health as much as our wallets.
Yes.
And to the point about investment, it is, a purchase of a home immediately improves the quality of your life. But should you want passive income, these markets are quite strong in the rental area as well. So you can bob and weave depending upon how your family grows. So long-term is an excellent investment that can pivot as your own family should expand or contract. It's great long-term.
I also think that, at this juncture of the market, I think what's very important to acknowledge is when a country has over 25 trillion in debt, and you have tariffs and all sorts of things that are pushing the pricing up of everything, including construction, a home and property in general is a wonderful hedge against inflation.
And it's also an investment you can enjoy. We always say a home's not an investment per se, but a second or third home. But you're right. It's you can really enjoy your investment. And to Maria's point, let's say there's a year that you do plan to travel, it makes a great rental property. So that's a great segue into the rental market. Wow, have we all been busy with the rental market? Hot. So people always ask, is the market really as hot as everyone says it is? And there are articles, you can open the paper and you can read, or you can look online and you can read different views on the market. And I do want to talk about that and answer some questions that people have about the market. But I think one thing that we all can agree on, and all media outlets can agree on, the rental market has been strong. I don't think we really have many rentals even left. This home is an example. We had it on the rental market for a while, and then the owners changed their minds and decided not to rent it out. But Kevin, I think 35,000.
Yeah, 35. We had plenty of suitors for this house on a 35,000 a month rental for long-term, plenty. And then the owners decided they'd prefer to sell. But the rental market, it's a function of, I think, the remote sort of learning with children, remote working. Now people feel like they don't have to be so close to one office, and that they can spread out and now spend time in a second home because their kids can get educated there, they can work from there. So a lot of those renters were people that just say, hey, I want to be in a few different places because I don't have to be pinned down to one location to go to one office in Midtown.
Absolutely, and they want to try it out.
Yeah.
We're hearing so many
Right.
renters, would you
Test
agree?
drive.
We want to test drive the suburbs. We want to test drive this lifestyle. And from the ones that I've checked in with, they are enjoying it.
Yeah.
And some are looking to extend their rentals, and now some are looking to buy since they have been renting it. What has been your experience in Greenwich and in the Hamptons? I know you guys can talk about the Hamptons.
When that rental wave first happened in March, I rented several high-end houses in Greenwich. And one client I just talked to the other day, he said, it was a magical experience. We lived there for 3 months now, where they have a home in Aspen that they're there for the summer. And he said, I think I want to buy a house in Greenwich next spring and spend the summers there. It was just a magical place. We really loved it. So it was really interesting. And again, that person had never been to Greenwich, before, and discovered it through this, and has a home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. This person has 4 or 5 homes, but now Greenwich is on their radar. They want to spend some time in Greenwich. They just thought it was lovely.
And quite a bit has been rented sight unseen.
Yeah.
Obviously couldn't show in March, but with technology's advancement, and we do a lot of shows.
Every rental is sight unseen.
And no complaints so far. It's been very effective. People have been very happy. I've been doing work in New Canaan, Connecticut, as a little bit of north from Greenwich, and people are test driving and enjoying. Every town has a slightly different personality.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about this area is that you have a beneficiary of multiple towns. Because think about it, you have Katona, Greenwich, Armonk, Wacabuck, you have New Canaan, you have Ridgefield, you have Westport, you have so many little towns, all within 15, 20, 30 minutes drive of one another. So when you're here, and I hate to say this again, but my guests were saying, this really is a Tuscan experience without the jet lag, and you have so many of the benefits. everyone speaks English. You don't get annoyed at the car rental counter because you have your own car. It's kind of heavenly.
And the dining experiences here are extraordinary. When those restaurants come back up and running, Jean-Georges.
We were just at John George on the terrace. It
Yeah.
was gorgeous.
It's wonderful. So that's even an invitation to, if you're still in the city and you want to come out and without purchasing a home or renting a home yet, most of the towns have actually closed off the downtown streets to cars, and tables are all out in the middle of the street. So we had dinner in Rye 2 nights ago, and it was magical. It was like a whole festival in the street. People outside, there was live music. So again, that's a way, just come out for the day and come out and have lunch in one town and dinner in another
Well,
town.
yeah, in Greenwich, they closed off the lower portion of Greenwich Avenue and did Cafe Society, and people literally come up from the city on the train, because you can walk right to Greenwich Avenue, as Leonard knows, and they have an outdoor dining experience up in Greenwich back on the train back to
I'm
New
gonna
York.
give a shout out for the Skull.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
In the Delamar Hotel.
Yes.
Had a lovely romantic dinner, first date night in a long time.
That was my first date night too.
Well, since COVID, it's
Yes,
been
it's
working
good.
nonstop.
Yes.
We all missed the restaurant experience.
Oh, I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Okay.
Outdoor dining was extraordinary, and the food was phenomenal, and the service was excellent.
Maria, my husband goes, really? I actually started to weep a little. I mean, it was so
Yeah.
overwhelming. I think I was nervous for
Chilean
just
sea bass.
being out again. No, but it was just being in public again. It was almost like overwhelming.
It's
To be in a
emotional.
restaurant again. It's
It's
emotional.
It was
It's emotional.
But everybody was very respectful, and it was a delightful evening.
We went to White Barns the other night, which I absolutely loved, in New Canaan. And it is so chic and fabulous and country. And I said, you know what? Where can you get this experience that is citified to a certain degree, but so laid back and casual at the same time? And I think it's the marriage of those two worlds that has taken the perception of where we are out of being suburban
Yes.
to being a mix of citified country. And I think it's that level of sophistication that really appeals to our Manhattan audience.
Well, like Kevin, you said, town and country.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think it's a great art.
Gray Barns.
Yeah.
I love Gray Barns.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. Also, indicated.
And the Fish and the Farmer, have you been to
Oh,
the Fish and the
yes,
Farmer?
yes.
I have
Oh,
loved it.
wonderful. In what town is that?
That's
In Purdy.
Purdy, exactly.
So we're feeling this new energy in the suburbs now, and basically what it is, it's a city person coming up and now saying, hey, I want to spend some time here, and it's brought a different level of energy to all these towns. So it's really interesting. So they're sort of merging. So it's a sort of an urban feel in a suburban environment, which is, I think,
And the prices are attractive.
yeah.
Well, there's a democracy of price points. Because if you look up here, you can get anything from the hundreds of thousands of dollars all the way up to the multi-million dollars. So there really is not that pseudo-snob appeal, but what I think is remarkable is that it allows for a variety of people to be up here as well. So not just one type. And I think that makes for an interesting lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we have some questions coming in from viewers. One question I know that they passed over to us is, but can you give us a sense? Do you feel like now is the time to buy, or is it waiting? And I always say to my clients, no one has a crystal ball, right? And also when you're purchasing a home, I always like to say, it also depends on your timetable, right? Your personal timetable, what your goals are. A client yesterday said, I think I'm going to wait, and he's probably on today watching. So hi, Philip, if you are watching us today. He said, I think I want to wait and buy next year because I hear, of this frenzy, and I hear that it's so busy and that they're bidding wars. And that really is not all accurate. I mean, let's, think about it. People that live in Manhattan, if they want to buy a second home, it depends. Some of them are like trading up in the city, trading down. There are some people that are moving out, but also, right now, if they can't sell maybe a property that they own just yet, that is also limiting on what they can do. But what would you say? How would you answer that? I mean, I said next year is going to follow the comps of
That's
this
a good
year.
answer.
I'm going to jump in. It reminds me, have you ever heard the interview with Warren Buffett when he said, what's the secret to your success? And he said, well, I bought high and sold low. In other words, he didn't time the
You
market.
can't.
He looked for quality. And so you know what you want. Don't look at the outside world's what's going on there, just stay focused on what works for
It's
you.
impossible to time a market.
That's
and
great
you
advice,
have to make
yeah.
a personal, real estate's a lifestyle choice, and if you're making a long-term decision, time heals everything, right, Leonard?
Well, I come home at the end of the day now and I take off my mask and my glasses and I see the ravages of time, and it reminds me time is the last luxury.
Yeah.
You better enjoy it while you can, and you can wait a year and you can wait 2 years, and people have done that. And most times when they've done that, and I've done that, I've looked past and I've seen those as wasted years.
Yes.
Time is the last luxury, and if you have the means, people who buy a home like this here are not suffering financially. They're probably well-to-do, and waiting to time that market to get the best buy, the best deal. I understand that, but I do not understand the loss of life and enjoyment that the fruits of your labor are delivering to you.
I like that. It's like, get on with your life, right? Get on with living.
We've learned in the last few months that life is fragile.
Yes, Leonard, yes.
And I think like the biggest thing we need to have is confidence. You want to buy a house and you see something that you like, move on it. One thing that this market is doing, in the city here in the Hamptons, is bringing to market homes that otherwise wouldn't come to market. So if you see it, you like it, buy it.
And as I think Maria said it exquisitely, when you focus on quality, you're not going to make a mistake, because number one, it's valuable hold up. Number two, if it dips, it'll dip a lot less than anything else, and when it goes up, it'll go up a lot more. More importantly, you will really enjoy that property. And a home is not something you should be buying for a year. People who do that, that's not a smart thing to do. When you buy a property, you're buying it for an extended period of time.
And that's why I feel the importance, if I could give a shout out to our brokerage, that we're advisors, real estate advisors, to help people define the quality at that price when it changes from one pocket to another.
No, and if someone really loves the house over time, they've enjoyed it for 5 years, most people won't even remember what they paid for it, honestly.
Well, I sold.
I don't know about that.
Specific numbers, it becomes less important what the actual number.
So I sold a weekend home I had on the Hudson River a few years ago before moving to this area, which saves me something in the region of 2 weeks worth of vacation and commuting, by the way. But what I registered at the end of the day was I made a profit on it, and then I added up the weeks of, when I was building my new house, I didn't have a weekend home, and I added up the cost of driving around, going to hotels, traveling, etc. The cost of that is not nothing. If you want a place on the weekend, or if you want a place for 3 or 4 nights of the week, and you don't own, that costs a fortune. You place that against the cost of ownership, where at least you're riding the wave of the market, you're placing your money, you can unpack. The value of all that in peace of mind and calm is priceless.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that it's sort of if you buy a second home, it's a staycation, if you will, and that's an investment versus going on vacation, and that's an expense, right? Now, obviously, we want to have these life experiences and we all want to travel, but I think people are going to look at it more as let me invest in a place where I can have extended family and have the staycation, and it's money that I'm investing in my future.
Well,
It's
it's
an
not just
asset.
ROI in terms of like actual dollars. Like, I've had a home in the Hamptons for a long time, and we have wonderful friends that we've met out there that we wouldn't otherwise have met.
Right.
But you should also think about the relationships in terms of ROI. And when you have a home, you get to know all your neighbors, embrace the community. That's a great upside too, not just the money.
But going back to timing of the market, Kim, some people and the point about confidence, they just don't have the confidence. They are constantly going to date and they're never going to marry. So some people just want to put their money in a more liquid asset.
And I think that's so true. You can't time the market. And it's really not about that. It's like quality and looking for what you want for you, your family, and friends.
Well, I'm a huge believer in home ownership. And I was reminded again earlier this morning why. There was this gentleman who had sold me, I just bought an investment property, and this gentleman who sold the house was in his 80s. And I compared his scenario with the checks he walked away from at that closing table to the same person who at that same age had not a single check to show for all the rent payments they'd paid for the last 30, 40 years. Ownership has its privileges, but it also has a lot of fiscal common sense, especially if it is viewed over a long, extended period of time.
Bingo. You need to look at, and that's what is great about this market, is that you can look long-term. enjoy it, and as we said before, pivot into being a passive income solution as well that allows for that long term. If you bought in 2017 in Manhattan, you're looking at a tough market if you need to sell now. That's just the way it is for now. But if you can rent, then you're inoculated from feeling the ebb and flow of a particular, any particular.
And always driven by quality, because let's face it, March 23rd of this year, had you sold your Apple stock, you'd feel foolish today. If you can hold onto investments and not necessarily time the market for their peaks and valleys, but never sell in a crisis. You never want to sell in a crisis.
No.
But here I think you have the opportunity that if you're focused on quality for the long term, you will be rewarded.
I think real estate is illiquid, but you have optionality in terms of renting. I remember in 2008, I had a house in Bridgehampton. I could not give it away in the fourth quarter of 2008. But that spring, someone came along and paid a big number to rent it for the summer, and then rental income carried that house until 2010 and was able to sell it for almost twice what someone offered in 2008.
And many people, I think there are many people now that I speak to who have absolute specific plans to rent out these second and third homes for 1, 2, or 3 months of the year, not to make money, but to cover their costs. And you know what, bravo to them, because let's face it, sit down with your accountant and figure out how that works for you, because then all of a sudden maybe there's depreciation in the whole equation. So there's a lot of opportunity with this from an accounting perspective.
Absolutely, and it's like younger people, when we're like looking at this, the bond market is terrible right now. And our financial advisor said there's no reason why you need to be in bonds. Own a lot of real estate. So get in the equity market and use that as bonds. And I thought that was so interesting that they saw that as such a safe investment. And in the Hamptons, the taxes are so low out there. It's like unbelievable. It makes for a great investment property.
So we actually have a question, wondering if this market and the shift that you're seeing is similar to the shift we saw in 2008 and after 9/11.
I think it's different. I think it's different because of technology. I think the technology that we have today allows us to do so many more things we could do back then that back then were impossible to even imagine. And I also think we have the adoption of the new technology has accelerated at a pace in the last 3 years even. I mean, at Compass, let's face it, we were doing video conferencing 6, 7 years ago on a daily basis. It was nothing new. But all of a sudden, everyone knows what Zoom is. Everyone at every age group knows what Zoom is. Everyone's Zooming. So there's so many things I think you can do remotely in multiple locations, anywhere in the world. And that's different today. I also think as self-driving, at least autonomous driving technology grows, the concept of being in a location where you have to commute more or travel more becomes very palatable, because let's face it, you could say, well, I'm going to have to be driving around in a car the whole day. Well, if you're seated in your car and you can do other things besides driving, it changes the whole landscape of how we live in different parts of the world.
I do think the pandemic too gave people an opportunity for a deep think, in terms of how they live, where they live, and people have emerged from that with all sorts of plans, life plans. Hey, I want to have a home in Florida. I want to spend more time in Aspen. I want to have a second home in Westchester. So it's really that deep think with people under quarantine for months and months. They've really come out of that with a life plan that involves real estate transactions.
But at every price point too, because I'm finding people who are worth $1 billion, that's a different story. They're going to do 20 million here, 15 million, 30 million here in different properties. But if someone has a $5 million budget for real estate, they can have a $3 million apartment in the city, a $1.5 million property here, and a $500,000 condo in Florida. So there are multiple choices, and I think people in the last 3 months have had this extraordinary opportunity to sit in their homes and figure out, how do I want to live? And how do I enjoy this life?
I think that's something we definitely all are seeing. And as Maria said, we're real estate advisors. We've really spent the past 2 months really sitting down with families and talking through what their desires are and how to help them. But one thing that's so different now in this real estate market across the country, comparing it to like 08 and 09, is right now there's so much more equity in homes, right? So sellers, there's just across the board have more equity in their homes than across the board in 08, 09. So I think there are some similarities, but very different. I don't see very many similarities when you really start to break it down and look at it, right? Would you say?
I think the biggest difference to me is that for the first time, I'm seeing people really awaken themselves to the possibility of owning within an hour of Manhattan, as opposed to traveling for hours or flying for their alternative home experience.
And also, I think we must say too, we've been talking a lot about the second home market, but for us also here in the suburbs, what we are seeing that families that were already thinking about moving out to the suburbs, maybe they were renting in Manhattan, and for those families, I think in many cases it's accelerated their search. Now they're saying, you know, we were thinking about moving in 2 or 3 years, but we want to go ahead and move now and go ahead and plant our seeds in the community. And I said to a family just 2 days ago, I said, you know, I've never really heard anyone regret making the move. I've heard them say, I wish I would have made this move sooner. And that's the beautiful thing about the suburbs, as I was saying to the young family, you still have the city. You know, you're so close to the city. You can go into the city for work, or you can go into the city for dinner, to the theater. And of course, we're talking about when things open up again, theater and museums. But it is like the best of both worlds to live out into the suburbs, and get to experience all this, but to be right outside of Manhattan. So we've seen a definite increase in families that were considering a move that have now accelerated their search and are moving. Now, some of them own in the city, so they have not been able to, you know, actually make the move just yet, but they're starting to research. They're starting to learn the market.
And well, I'd like to get back to that point of having worked through September 11th and worked through 2009. It does feel a lot different. September 11th was very New York centric, and the entire country felt a lot of pain and wanting that little section of the world to do well. Then we were nationally hit with the banking industry. This pandemic is a global experience. Our banking industry is a bit stronger now, so other areas, if you're going to make a lifestyle change, they're benefiting. Interest rates are lower than they were. But I wanted to share that I'm getting phone calls from people that are noticing that the New York City market is a value purchase now, and young people are buying 1 and 2 bedrooms where they couldn't have thought that they could buy such an apartment for $2 million. So it's a pretty active market, 2 million and below in Manhattan as well.
So actually, to piggyback off that, that's a great segue. Someone asked, I'm interested in, you know, if I'm interested in buying in the city right now, how do I navigate that when all the amenities and the resources I'm normally paying for through my rent are unavailable right now? How do you?
It's temporary.
Yeah.
It is very temporary because, let's face it, there are 400 treatments right now in late stages of evaluation by the CDC. You can see the death rate of the virus dropping pretty notably every week because we have learned so much more over the last 3 months than we did know in February about how to treat this disease. A vaccine could be out by end of this year, early next year, but that is the one I wouldn't rely on as much as the fact that, think about HIV. Everyone's saying we're going to get a vaccine. We still don't have a vaccine for HIV, but people are living with HIV forever because of treatments. So the hope for treatments to me is extraordinary. That's number one. Number two, the flattening of the curve in Manhattan is astounding. It was the most unbelievably effective. And if you look at Bergamo in Italy today, their ICU is vacant of COVID-19 cases. They had the worst outbreak and they were unprepared for it. And all of a sudden, they've eliminated it down to 0. All of those things are temporary. So I think we have to evaluate what is temporary, what is permanent. And I think also when it comes to the market unlocking, there's a new appreciation for big. And a lot of these big homes with empty nesters didn't have an audience that now they do have. That allows people to move into these big homes out here, but it also allows the empty nesters to buy into the city because they've been waiting for months and years to be able to do that.
That's
So it's
what
an
we're saying.
unlocking of the market.
Absolutely.
Is that question from someone that's looking to rent or to purchase? It's they're renting amenities?
I think purchasing, yes, purchase a sale in the
Because they're
environment.
going to buy and pay for all these amenities and not be able to use them. You'll always have your doorman and your security. Those are the critical ones always. The gym that's about to come back already, there are high power air ventilator systems that are being installed into all the gyms.
And the short and gray.
That's a finite period of time. Manhattan will be full on again at some point.
So
It's
as
a very good time to purchase.
Yeah.
Very good
It's
time to
incredible.
Just negotiate right
Value
now.
city.
So
The
as
deals right now are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deals are great. Larry said the other day something that's so true. Never bet against New York. New York is
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
amazing. When I dream of what I want to do when this is over, I want to go to London, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to all these fabulous cities. Why is Westchester so great? Why is Connecticut? Why are the Hamptons? Because they're surrounded by New York City where all the best talent is. And I believe that, having the best of both worlds is fantastic, and New York's going to come back stronger and
It
better.
always reinvents itself.
America has extraordinary cities. Let's face it, Nashville, Dallas, LA, San Francisco, these are wonderful cities. But New York is a city that takes hundreds of years to create, and it needs to be compared to the Londons and the Parises of the world. It is in a class of its own.
I like to
It's
call
an-
it a city state.
It's a city state, and it is a global center. It is not just a city. Recreating Manhattan today is impossible.
I agree. So as we start to wrap up, I just want to see if we have any other questions. And we also have guests joining us here this morning that are not on the panel. So to our guests, any questions over there? Any input? We'd love to hear. We have other Compass agents
Come
with
on
us.
over.
Come on over.
Yeah, bring yours.
Come in and join us behind here. Come in.
It's quality talk.
Yeah.
Yes. Even come behind us or come around. Come in. Because we are wrapping up soon, but if there are any other questions, we want to be able to answer them, and anything that you want
There's
to.
only about 3 million people watching.
We're not enjoying about this space right
Yes.
now, however commanding, but this has been just a warm and elegant, cozy place to have this chat.
Without the fire.
I haven't even, now, it's wonderful to see the fireplace.
Well, this is live, so it's not, we could say whatever. I would just say, going back to it, and I just comments in Westchester, I work with Kim all the time, I work with Linda, Aaron, Jason Wilson's Compass, nice to meet you. Leonard actually I wrote a story for his email that he writes daily, which I don't know how you do, and it's unbelievable every
Daily,
day.
daily. If you would like to subscribe to Leonard's emails, you can do that.
Yeah.
So we'll pass that
Yeah.
along.
Contact
So-
she'll charge a fee for that.
So, Leonard, one of the things I had highlighted about with Westchester and just real estate in general is just that real estate, the American dream is alive again, which is great. Which for a long time, there was a lot of stories about the millennials didn't appreciate real estate and what their parents did. It wasn't the American dream anymore. And what's changed is that because of COVID, people have actually lived in their homes just a little bit longer than they ever expected before, about the home office, the outside, being able to have places outside. I've lived in northern Westchester for 15 years right now. I've been in Westchester my whole life. And I have to say, I've even appreciated, I even had my house on the market at one point where we decided to stay. Now we're doing all the things that we wanted to do because we're like, we're going to be here. Why not do the things and not do it as a punch list before we put the house on the market? Let's do it. We'll be here for another 6 years before my kids graduate. And let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the things. Backyards are back again. So now I'm making an investment, more of an investment in the backyard, where for a while, there wasn't really that much going on in the backyard. Pool has value. So there's a lot of things that have come in the past. But what I will say is for the people out there, there's a lot of doom and gloom. I just finished our market report, which is the first half of the year versus this Q2 report that a lot of companies have put out there. And the positive thing is that if you really look at the first half versus the Q2, which is what you really should be looking at, it's only down about 40 houses, in Westchester, single family homes that have closed. And the reality is that has to do with inventory. If you think about when we went into this shelter in place back on March 23rd, that's really put a froze on us putting inventory on. So we're really going to see what's happening in the third quarter. It's not telling the story of what everyone is talking about here.
And closings
Yeah.
are really not a gauge
Yes.
of the market.
They're not.
So the signings are very, very.
The
Yes.
pending, the
Yes,
pending
every week I have a tracker that we've designed where every week we're showing how many are going to contract, how much more inventory is coming on. So I wanted to see for the viewers out there, don't listen to the papers. They like to write negative stuff because the reality is what we're talking about, this whole positive energy, everybody coming into different markets, it's happening and it's also benefiting all of Westchester, not just that's commutable to the city. So where someone would say, I only want Scarsdale, Larchmont, Rye, they're going to Chapel Bar, they're going to Yorktown, they're going to Silvers, they're going all this because they may not have to go to the city as often as they used to in the past. They're coming to this beautiful location here in Bedford. You know, Bedford, Chapel Bar, Armonk, all these locations have, you know, just unbelievable amenities that people don't realize. You know, when I was driving down here, I was driving past Martha Stewart's house that, you know, it's not too far down the road on my way over here, coming from Yorktown. There's a lot of great things that Northern Westchester has to offer that I think people are benefiting, and we're even seeing benefiting going past in New York State, where people are going to the Catskills, but we haven't heard that in a very long time. So people are enjoying the quality of life. They are, you know, sitting down, sitting down, having dinner with their family, and just stop it. And I think that's what, if we could take anything that's come from the pandemic, is people have had that pause and that reset that we kind of need in life to appreciate all the things in life, like each other, our kids, our family, and our home.
Absolutely right. And also
Bring me to
just
tears.
and also, and also the network just with us as agents, we are so fortunate at Compass to be with a company that has agents across the country. And even with our own agents here in Westchester, Jason has led a daily Zoom call. And like someone said, instead of looking at the agents, you know, back, but they're sitting in an office and we're all there together, we actually are on Zoom together. We're all actually seeing each other's faces. We're communicating. So there are many things that have come out of this. And I have to say, we see this. Jason had his home on the market and he decided to stay and not sell. And we're seeing that throughout Westchester. People are even being approached, you know, to actually sell their homes. And there's some homeowners that, you know, say, absolutely not. I'm not moving. I'm staying. If anything, like you said, just diversifying and maybe buying more real estate.
I'd also say that some people think of Westchester as maybe a little bit of a secondary cousin to the chic Hamptons. But my neighbor across the lake just had their home featured in Elder Court. There's stunning interior design and architecture up here that I think people don't really even know about. When you drive up to this house, you see a home on the left and the right, and you go like, I've never seen that before. So there's some extraordinary quality of real estate up here happening, and a lot of being renovated and built that's elevated. Look at this house. Extraordinary.
This home is extraordinary.
I will say that let's tell our homeowners their homework, the viewers, their homework is go get lost in Westchester.
Yeah.
Just get in the car this weekend
And Greenwich.
and just in Greenwich. And just explore and get lost. Like I'm heading to Cape Cod this weekend, and that's how I've learned more and more about Cape Cod was by I said to my wife, let's just use the map and let's just get lost. And that's how we found great beaches. We found this same thing in Westchester. Just explore Greenwich. Just explore. Go to the backcountry. Go to all these different areas. I think there's so many gems that are out there, but because we're in this life of go to work, and then we just have the weekends. Go to work, like it's everybody wants to stay in their comfort zone. Well, this has made us feel uncomfortable, but in a good way. I would say get lost, explore, and then stop by Leonard's house and have a cup of coffee.
I think that's true, right? Just get out and look. I think we as even like homeowners here in Westchester, we don't get out and explore.
Yeah.
We don't look around. We don't drive up to Greenwich and our neighboring towns. We need to do more of that. So I guess just bringing this all full circle, we just want to thank our viewers for joining us. This is actually going to be out and be on our Facebook pages and will be broadcast in other social media platforms. So you can actually view the whole program. But if you have questions or if you want to explore Westchester, if you want to explore Greenwich, the Hamptons, the city, we are here for you. And as Maria said, we like to look at ourselves as real estate advisors and to help you look at your whole, not only your financial portfolio, but your emotional portfolio, what you're looking for your family, and really help you find your way home and find homes or find your way to different homes, right?
The right home.
The right home quality for you. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.